go. Okay. Good evening, everybody. We are very honored to have with us Rabbi Cagan from Jewish Educational Media. So first of all, Rabbi, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Welcome to our Wednesday night special guest appearance.
Thank you very much for having me. I apologize for the lack of a background. I pride myself in professionalism.
Yeah, you're supposed to be a technological guy. Come on.
Yeah. Rabbi Epstein asked me a few times to get on, and a few times. Thank God we have a lot going on, and so I'm in my small little room. And if you hear little kids in the background, they might join the videos.
We'd be honored to have them. So let's get right into it. You work with JEM. What is JEM, and what is its mission statement?
Okay. JEM, Jewish Educational Media, is the full name of JEM. It's an organization that was started in 1980. Just to give a brief history, when the Rebbe first became Rebbe, firstly, he didn't want the mantle of leadership. He's a very humble person. Actually, we learned last week's parsha about Moses being the most humble of all people. The Rebbe followed suit, did not want the mantle of leadership. And when he finally took it in 1951, he didn't want people to film him, take pictures of him. Actually, in the early years, there are some pictures of the Rebbe blocking his face because he didn't want the attention. He of leadership because he felt that the work of his father-in-law would be lost if someone didn't take over. So he didn't want pictures taking video, and they slowly the Rebbe allowed him to be filmed, taken pictures of. But in the beginning, it was like a process. So it started with kind of hidden recording where they taped the Rebbe's talks and farbrengens, until it evolved in the early 1970s. One of the Rebbe's secretaries, Rabbi Krinsky, decided on his own to hire a professional camera crew to film all of the major talks by the Rebbe. There were between 6 and 8 a year. I mean, the Rebbe would address the community many times, but special occasions that were marked in the calendar where Rabbi Krinsky would hire a professional camera crew where he would film the Rebbe. And at the time, it was a really cutting edge kind of thing. And actually, the locals, Hasidim included, were kind of skeptical of it because back in the day in the 70s, the cameras were huge, and it took the space of maybe Rabbi Epstein, 10 to 15 Hasidim that can cram into that small space. So it was prime real estate because it was right there in front of the Rebbe. So that's where it started. And then by 1980, Jewish Educational became an official organization founded by the Rebbe, where they started to not just one individual hiring a cameraman, but rather as an official capacity and organization of Chabad Lubavitch movement to film and broadcast the Rebbe's farbrengens. And throughout the 1980s, it continuously evolved. I remember as a kid growing up in Houston, they would bring a satellite to the local Chabad center, and they did this all over the world. And I'm sure they did in Chicago, London, various places, Israel, where people would gather that they could actually view the Rebbe live, addressing the world, really, the Jewish world, or anyone who wanted to tap in. And then later on, it actually there was a cable station that actually took them on, and there are many stories, including that of Jerry Weintraub, the famous Hollywood producer, who was flipping the channels and all of a sudden saw this bearded rabbi, the Rebbe, and he was totally struck by him. A whole relationship evolved. So JEM, in short, is an organization started by the Rebbe in 1980, which was its goal was to film and broadcast the Rebbe's talks and farbrengens.
So JEM has started, Jewish Educational Media, in 1980. We remember before everyone had an iPhone and cameras in their pockets, what a big production it was. how did you get involved, and how long have you been involved, and what prompted you to make this the way in which you're going to fulfill the Rebbe's mission of making the world ready for Mashiach?
How did I get involved? So after the Rebbe's passing in 1994, there was a bunch of films sitting up in Chabad headquarters, and a group of a few individuals, I wasn't part of the pioneering group, started to take those films and make small videos of the Rebbe. They would literally take them and bring them to Manhattan to studios. And I got on board in 2001. It was shortly after 9/11, where I had just finished finishing my smicha rabbinate. I spent a year in Johannesburg, South Africa, and I was offered a job. In the beginning, it was just a it was going to hold me between coming back to New York to get married, and then out to be a shaliach. But as I took on more and more responsibilities, I felt it's an incredible tool to bring Yiddishkeit, Judaism, or more closely, the Moshe Rabbeinu, the Moses of our generation, to the world. So yeah.
Here in Illinois, a few hours south in Springfield, there's a whole museum dedicated to Abraham Lincoln.
There you go.
It sounds in many ways that what JEM is doing is it is preserving and presenting the Rebbe's message and mission to the world. So which part do you do? Are you in the film guy? Are you in the print guy? Give us a little personal insight into what your responsibilities are.
I try to be a nice guy, to be honest. By the way, my roots are in the Midwest, so anytime someone from the Midwest starts talking, both my parents are from Milwaukee. I know that could be a rivalry in Chicago, but nonetheless, everyone's good and wholesome from the Midwest.
Amen.
I am involved in JEM's. There's a oral history project that was launched about 17 years ago already, with its aim to, in addition to all the film and audio recordings, which we've preserved, digitized, cleaned, there's a whole slice of the Rebbe's life that wasn't properly documented. So we launched an oral history project called My Encounter with the Rebbe, where we film one-on-one interactions of people's experiences with the Rebbe. The Torah is made up of stories. The Torah could have been a book of law, right? That's what it really is. But obviously it's full of stories because people relate to stories. And there we go. So people relate to stories. So I get the tremendous schus and merit to be able to interview, or my team gets to interview many people from all different walks of life about the experiences with the Rebbe. And we're talking from the simple mom living in Chicago. Actually, we're about to release a book, which will feature a story from Chicago, to the highest general from the IDF, to senators of the US, mayors, you name it.
So what's the process? How do you find the moms or the generals? And do you just call them up cold and say, hi, I'm Rabbi Cagan from Jewish Educational Media. I'd like to interview you. Give us a little bit of the process.
Right.
Many of the people on our Zoom here have seen, some maybe not, the different books and films, and we want to get into that. But essentially, to give the background, how does that work? How do you even come up with who to call?
So the project is is built on people like Rabbi Epstein and anyone else in the world who refer us leads. That's how we do it. We're constantly begging and asking the world at large to refer us to anyone that had an experience with the Rebbe. In addition, every once in a while, and Chicago needs to be visited, is that we go to different cities all over the world. And the way it works is basically we call some of the local Chabad shluchim, rabbis, and ask them, who do we film? And we'll be there anywhere in 10 days, just filming nonstop. of people's experiences with the Rebbe. But we constantly are getting leads. I literally today, we were combing a lead that came from Israel. He's 87 years old, is a infertility doctor. And he came to New York to do some training or do a seminar of sorts. And he was asked to meet with the Rebbe. And the Rebbe was fascinated about all the infertility treatment and wanted to know all the details. Just to give you a little bit of an insight, Rabbi Epstein and everyone else, there's a lot of, in addition to filming, we have to verify. It's very hard to verify when there was no recordings in the Rebbe's office. Many of these interactions happened with the Rebbe in private in his office. So this lead, for example, we got it from Chassid, who was at the Rebbe's resting place in Queens in the Ohel, and he met this guy, and he was sitting next to him, and he said, "Oh, let me tell you a story." And he started telling him that he's an infertility doctor, but he wouldn't say his name, and he told him, and this I still haven't verified, but he told him that in addition to being blown away by the Rebbe's knowledge in infertility treatment, or at least the Rebbe's concern for couples that want to have children, this doctor was a little bit chutzpahdik, and he came into the Rebbe's office without a yarmulke, and he asked the Rebbe, and this again, I haven't verified, and you heard it first, and I see it's recording. I asked Rabbi Epstein to not publish this because I have not verified this. This could be
Stop the recording. So tell us a little broader about JEM. What are some of JEM's major projects? I think a lot of people are familiar with the Living Torah, maybe not. You mentioned Mike. Can you give us a sense of what are the productions that JEM has made, and then what's the distribution like?
Okay. So JEM, since actually 9/11, was actually the first time we produced Living Torah. We were getting back, it was the days of VHS. We were getting back our copies from a duplication center in New Jersey when 9/11 happened. And it got stuck, obviously. It couldn't make it to Brooklyn. It was almost like God was telling us, there's a concept in the Talmud that says that God brings the healing before the injury, or I was almost like God was saying, you got to continue to bring, the Rebbe's light and inspiration to the world.
Rabbi, you're supposed to be techno savvy. You conked out on us. What happened? Rabbi, still there? Hopefully his internet comes back. Remember, tomorrow night we're going to do Parsha, and next week on Monday nights we're going to start a new. Rabbi, you conked out on us there. You're talking about 9/11 and the VHS, and then we went blank. So pick up the story where it's 9/11 and you're waiting for the VHS tapes to come.
So they were waiting for the VHS tapes to arrive, and 9/11 happened. We didn't get them. So we took it as almost like God was sending us a message that he prefaces the healing before the illness, that we have to continue bringing the Rebbe's warmth and brilliance, inspiration to the world through these weekly videos that we produce. In the last year, we kind of changed up the format. Hopefully Rabbi Epstein shows these on a weekly basis, and if he doesn't, I encourage him, urge him. I should have actually made it
every Sunday night we show it, and the women watch it Thursday morning before the Parsha class, the Living Torah.
Right. So now we have a weekly film where we highlight something in the Rebbe's life, whether it be, like you say, tackling crime in New York City, or recently we did something about the Rebbe's answer to Israeli terror and that kind of thing, how the Rebbe addressed solutions to the problems in Israel and that kind of thing. And we have so many, right now, actually, we're working on a film where talking about the Russian Jewry during the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Fascinating film. We've been working on it for months now. And stay tuned. If you're not watching it Sunday night or Thursday, you must this coming week's film.
So tell everybody, what's the website? Where can they go and watch it?
All right. So we just launched a digital platform. We used to have VHS, and then we went to DVD. By the way, Rabbi Epstein, we're like kind of pushing the envelope. First, we pushed people to buy VHS players, recorders, and then we asked them to throw it out and buy DVD players. And now we're asking people there's a website called gem.tv, where we're now uploading all of our films in the last 25 years. And it gives us an opportunity. You can sign up and become a member, and gives us an opportunity whenever there's something going on in the world, whether it's current events or something going on in the Jewish calendar, or anything for that matter, to express and bring out the Rebbe's message on that subject.
Our shul is a member. We're huge fans. Tell us about some of the print things that Jem does as well. All
right. So, by the way, I'm always interviewing. I've never been on this side of the.
There you go.
One of the deals I had was that I interview, but don't get interviewed. But here we go. Okay, the print stuff. We have about 25,000 pages of transcripts from our over close to 2,000 interviews. Every interview is transcribed. So in addition to video, we have the weekly Here's My Story, which Rabbi Epstein either emails or publishes or prints it out in the Chabad. So we've recently, in the last 5-7 years, we published books with beautiful stories and interactions of people's experiences with the Rebbe. Some of the names are My Story, which volume 2 is coming out hopefully in honor of the holidays, or a month later. We have Seeds of Wisdom, where they're short stories of the Rebbe with a little bit of a zinger, lesson to be learned one by one. And actually, we just recently finished a huge project documenting the Rebbe's life before the Rebbe came to America. It's called The Early Years. And
I've read it.
Yeah, it took us 15 years. The My Encounter project started with the Rebbe's early, we didn't know where to start. There's tens of thousands of people that were inspired by the Rebbe, hundreds of thousands, I don't even know. And so we were like, where are we going to start? So we started in the Rebbe's early life, and they started as films. You can watch them on gem.tv. And then we realized that there was such a lack of knowledge on the Rebbe's early life. So we decided to embark on a crazy mission, and we've since gone to archives all over Russia, Ukraine, Latvia, Poland, Germany. I'll tell you one story. I was filming someone for these early years film. I was in Detroit, and being that I work for corporate America, instead of being put up at a 5-star hotel, I was put up at the local Chabad rabbi's house.
Oh, it's 7 stars. Wow.
7 stars, yeah. Shared a room with a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. That was great. We had some good chicken soup. And basically, it was a fascinating story. Rabbi Epstein, Rabbi Krupnik, he told a story of how his teacher told him a story about the Rebbe in the 30s. I won't go into that story, but as I was sitting there and I was talking to the rabbi there at Pinson, he said, you know what, I went, and this is another way of how we get leads. He said, I went to a yeshiva in a suburb of Paris called Brenois. And what was done in all Chabad yeshivas, they go out on Friday afternoon and meet the locals, put tefillin on Jews, or give them Shabbos candles to give out to the women. And he said that someone that he went to claimed to have been in the Rebbe's university class in Paris.
In the Sorbonne.
Nope, not in the Sorbonne. So I asked this rabbi, I said, do you have his number by any chance? And this rabbi is incredibly organized. And he looks into his files, and sure enough, he gives me the number. This was on a Sunday night. Tuesday afternoon, I was on a plane to Paris, and I filmed an individual by the name of Sanya Sherman. And he remembers vividly that the Rebbe was the only Orthodox Jew with a beard and a hat sitting in the corner. He didn't remember much because the Rebbe was very quiet. The Rebbe himself said by nature he was an introvert. So he was very quiet. And you're still skeptical. At Rebbe's now a public figure. Everyone wants to hear about the Rebbe. So I asked him, "Do you have any documentation?" And he says, "Sure." And he was also organized, and he showed me the graduating class, and there it was, all these French names with Sanya Sherman, and then the Rebbe's name there. So I asked him where the university was, and he said, a 10-minute drive from here. So I was leaving the next night back to the States, and I ran to the university, and I asked if I can have access to the archive. And he says, "Well, the archive's not here, but it's in a suburb outside of Paris called Quichon." So I took a trolley, and I went to the archive, and I said, "I'm doing a project on a great rabbi who used to live who since passed away, but had an incredible influence on the world. And I'm doing some research because I believe he was a student in it was a small college called ESTP. It's an engineering, like the Ivy League system in the States. There's something called the Grande École, excuse my French, which is a Ivy League school. And this ESTP was an engineering school where they taught mechanical, electrical engineering. And just then, the dean of the archive happened to walk by and says, "You want to do some research on your grandfather? Sure, come in." And he gave me access, and I was shivering because who am I? But I had access to the Rebbe's report cards, 4 years of the Rebbe's classes in engineering, and just 2 minutes was in the comments. I don't speak French, so we got him translated. But one was that he must continue to not he has to stop missing lab work. Basically, the Rebbe didn't do so much of the nitty gritty getting his hands dirty, which parenthetically, we interviewed a French person on his 98, when he was 98, he passed away a few weeks later, who said he knew the Rebbe in France, and he remembers knocking on the Rebbe's door in his house, in his apartment in France, and the Rebbe was sitting by his desk learning Torah with piled of Torah books, and his wife was with a compass. So it could be that his wife was helping out with the homework to balance the busy schedule. And one little fascinating thing was there was a clip, which that clip was from 1934. It was rusty. And it said in French that the Rebbe's name, student so-and-so, the Rebbe's name, is now permitted to go back into school after being suspended. And he and only he is allowed to leave school early on Friday afternoon during the winter months. Obviously, the Rebbe missed class. In France, Shabbos probably came in at 3:30 o'clock, and the Rebbe left, and they didn't like that. And the Rebbe got special permission to leave early. And just fascinating.
It's fascinating. So you talk about we do this. I mean, you are the interviewer. When I was in yeshiva, they didn't have a class in interviewing or in archive research or film management. I did take early fax machine repair and copy machine dejamming. I got an A. I don't like to brag. Where did you guys, you just sort of winging it? You got any formal training? You just sort of learning on the job?
So before I launch in, how do we grade in terms of films and books?
How do we what? I'm sorry.
How do you grade us?
It's unbelievable. I mean,
quality.
Lexus should have public relations like JEM. I mean, it's remarkable.
Yeah. So it's not. We have a team of around 30, 35 dedicated individuals who work for JEM. Many all over the world. We live in a time that you can work remotely, because we everything we make we translate to 10 languages.
10.
Yes.
Come on,
yes.
You got to tell what. English, I'm going to guess Hebrew. I'm going to guess Spanish, French, Pig Latin, probably not, Russian, Portuguese, German, Abu Dhabi, no.
Yiddish.
Yiddish, you said?
There's a whole Hasidic world.
So in Yiddish.
Yiddish.
Wouldn't have thought of that. Yiddish. Portuguese,
Chinese Mandarin. You said Portuguese?
Chinese Mandarin, seriously.
No.
No. I
Although there
wouldn't
was
have
I remember interviewing someone, and the Rebbe pushed to publish Torah books and translate them into Chinese.
So what are the last two languages? I can't.
So the last two, now you're putting me on the spot, is
Sri
Hungarian,
Lankan- Hungarian, okay.
and
Italian,
I think Italian was we go back and forth. Some of them we do, some of them we don't.
Greek.
Latin. Go back to the original. Anyway, so you're I don't think anyone has college university training. I think they once asked the Rebbe, how do you send out rabbis who have no training when it comes to public speaking? So the Rebbe's answer was, what do you mean? The best training is when you're on the job.
Yeah.
The Rebbe, as rabbinical students, we're people and give them a weekly thought on the parsha or whatever it is. So you learn on the job. And
Well, you're the great. I mean, JEM has got to be the best advertisement for that strategy, because here you got 30 yeshiva guys making Hollywood character film, the Walter Cronkite of interviewers and publications that Random House should be clamoring for.
Thank you. I'll relay the message to the rest of the guys.
Please do. Okay, Rabbi Cagan, I want to thank you for spending the time. I know it's been busy. We've been after you for a couple of weeks to try to get you. We really appreciate it. Thank you. We'll send you the video with the pause part. And those people who we're sending it out to who didn't join us tonight, they're tough luck. That's why you can't miss a week of our special Wednesday guest. Remind everybody, tomorrow night we'll learn some Parsha. Thank you, Rabbi. Really appreciate your time and for sharing your insights, and Yasher Koach for bringing the Rebbe's message to so many tens and hundreds of thousands of people through all the different media, film, books, publications, and so on. JEM.tv, jemmedia.com. Thank you, Rabbi, and good night, everybody.